US government officials are saying that the United States government has enough money to fund both wars, to give money to Ukraine and to give money to Israel, to fund both of their militaries. So I'm going to show you the video clip, and who better to ask about the US government's finances than the US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. So here's what she said. Here's what Janet Yellen said yesterday, so you can see for yourself. I am not exaggerating anything, and I'm going to show you a 1-minute clip so that you know that I didn't take anything out of context.
In terms of what this all means, Paul Tudor Jones, the famed investor, was on CNBC this week, and he said, "This is the most threatening and challenging geopolitical environment that I've ever seen. At the same time, the US is in its weakest fiscal position since World War II, with debt to GDP at 122%. Can America, can the West afford another war at this time?"
I think the answer is absolutely. America can certainly afford to stand with Israel and to support Israel's military needs. And we also can and must support Ukraine in its struggle against Russia. And look, the American economy is doing extremely well. Inflation has been high, and it's been a concern to households. It's come down considerably.
So you just saw it for yourself. The interviewer asked, can America afford another war at this time? And Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, absolutely. So the interviewer cited fiscal weakness. The finances of the US government right now, and well, this whole time, it's not been in good shape. US debt to GDP is now at 98%. And 122% projected by the CBO. And Yellen said that the American economy is doing extremely well. I would say that, okay, for certain corporations and for certain people, specifically the upper class, she's got a point there. The economy is doing very well for those types of people, corporations and the uber wealthy. But for everyday Americans, I would say not so much. The data doesn't lie. It's data coming straight from the Federal Reserve. Credit card debt has hit record levels. Delinquencies and defaults, they're spiking up. We're talking about all across the board, from mortgages to credit card debt to auto loans, etc. Okay, now let's move on to another part of Yellen's interview. So Yellen gets asked about America's support for Israel.
Is it fair to say that America's support for Israel is unconditional? Or are there some conditions based on what might unfold in the days ahead?
I think America stands behind Israel, period. We stand with Israel. America has also made clear to Israel, we're working very closely with the Israelis, that they have a right to defend themselves, but it's important to try to spare innocent civilian lives to the maximum extent possible.
So Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen said, and I quote, "America stands behind Israel." And that's somewhat true. Many Americans stand behind Israel, but many Americans do not stand behind Israel. Many Americans support Palestine. And many Americans don't want to stand behind either side. You have a lot of people saying America first. And I completely understand the perspective, because we can't even take care of our own here in America. Look at the homelessness situation. Look at the border crisis. The poverty rate for seniors is going up right now. I'm in Chicago. Do you know how many people get shot up here every single week in this city? I'm sure it's in many cities as well. It's very similar. And the money that's going to Ukraine, the money that's going to Israel, the money that's going to all these other countries from Central America all the way to Asia, that is taxpayer money. This is our money. This is not the politicians' money. Listen, we're going to move on. But I understand that the humanitarian crisis, I mean, that's the priority. That's more important than anything else. But in this video, we are sticking to the economics of the situation. So the interviewer asks Yellen about the threats of higher oil prices. The reason why I'm saying this is because the war can potentially spike oil prices. And this could lead to much higher gasoline prices here in the US. Anybody here in California, you can tell us how much a gallon currently costs, and imagine that figure just shooting up substantially from here. So if oil prices go up, then inflation goes up, and then the Federal Reserve will have to keep interest rates higher for longer. So take a look at what Yellen says about oil, and then I'll give you my inputs on the situation.
In terms of